I never thought I'd be that guy, sitting here, pouring out my guts on a thread about the biggest mess of my life. But here I am because honestly I don't know what else to do. My name's Dan, and I've got a story that's so raw, so damn bizarre, I can't even separate the rage from the sadness anymore. It all started about 2 months ago, the holiday party at the company. Everything was supposed to be fun, a way to forget about deadlines and meetings, maybe loosen up a bit. I've been working at this marketing firm for 3 years and I genuinely liked my job. Jess had been with me almost a year. She's smart, funny, beautiful, the kind of woman everyone notices. We've been talking about getting married by summer, planning our future, finally settling into something real. That night, the party was at this fancy hotel downtown, the kind with chandeliers and a bar that never seemed to run out of bourbon. Jess looked stunning in her red dress, her eyes sparkling when she smiled. I remember feeling proud to introduce her around, feeling like I finally found someone worth holding onto. But something was off that night. I couldn't shake the feeling that Jess was distracted. She was laughing a little too loud with her, leaning in too close. I joked about her flirting. She rolled her eyes, but I saw her glance at a guy in a suit, tall, confident, with a smirk that looked like he knew a secret I didn't. Later, I saw her sneak out of the room with him, just slipped away while everyone else was dancing or grabbing another drink. I didn't think much of it until I noticed her phone buzz a few minutes later. She hurriedly put it down and turned her back to me. Something in my gut sank, an instinct I'd learned to trust over the years. The next day I found her messages. I didn't even have to dig deep. There was a string of emojis, kisses, winks, and that same guy's name kept popping up every other message. "Can't wait to see you again," one said. "Last night was incredible," another. I stared at it, stomach twisting so tight I thought I'd gag. I held the phone in my hand, trembling. My mind spun. She'd sleep with him, at a work event just days before I was going to propose. I never saw it coming. It's like I'd been hit with a freight train, all the trust I had shredded down to nothing. I confronted her that night, barely could get the words out. "Jess, I saw your messages. Did you sleep with him? Is that why you left the party with him?" Her face went pale, but she didn't deny it. Just looked at me with those wide eyes like I was the last person she ever expected to catch her. "It was just a mistake," she whispered, voice trembling. "It didn't mean anything." That's when I realized nothing about her was what I thought. I thought I knew her. I thought I loved her. Turns out she'd been hiding all of this behind her fake smile and sweet words. And now I was spiraling. I can't get the image of her kissing him out of my head, her hair tangled in her fingers, that damn smirk on his face. It's like everything we built is crumbling, and I don't even know if I want to stay or walk away. I started noticing other things, too. Small stuff, her phone always hidden, her texts hastily deleted. I caught her lying once about where she was after work, and I felt the blood rush to my ears. All the signs were there, but I'd been blind. Or maybe I just didn't want to see. I'm not some naive fool who thought marriage was perfect. I know people screw up. I know relationships aren't fairy tales. But this was betrayal on a level I didn't even know existed. And now I'm sitting here trying to piece together what I should do next, because I can't just forgive and forget. Not after this. The worst part, I still love her. Or at least I think I do. That's what's messing with my head. How do you come back from something like this? How do you look at someone who was supposed to be your partner and see only a stranger? I don't have all the answers yet, but I know one thing: I'm not going down without a fight. If she thought she could do this and get away with it, she's got another thing coming. I've got a plan. It's not reckless or stupid, but it's revenge, plain and simple. I want her to feel what I'm feeling: betrayed, humiliated, broken. And I want her to remember that day for the rest of her life. Because she might have just lost everything and she won't even see it coming. Next part. I spent the next couple of days trying to keep my cool, though inside I was boiling. Every time I caught myself thinking about Jess with that bastard, my fists clenched so tight my palms went sweaty. I couldn't even focus at work. My brain kept circling back to her, to what she did, to how much I'd trusted her. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to be reckless. I needed proof, something solid that would hit her like a punch in the gut. I started digging through her phone again, more carefully this time. I wasn't just looking for the obvious, though that was there, plain as day. I was trying to find the little things she missed deleting, the little clues of what she was hiding. And I found it. A receipt from a hotel near her office. Not just any hotel, one of those fancy boutique places where people go for secret meetings. It was dated just 2 nights ago, the same night she was supposedly out with friends. I held the paper in my hand, feeling the weight of it, the proof I needed. That was all I wanted, her to know I knew. I also found her credit card statement. More charges from that same hotel, along with a few others, dinner for two, some cocktails, and charges for what looked like a rideshare. It all fit into the picture I was building. She'd lied, she'd sneaked around, and she'd done it all while I was planning to spend my life with her. That night I sat on my couch, staring at the evidence spread out on my coffee table. The room was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and my own breathing. My stomach was twisted tight, a mixture of rage and betrayal. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to do it from a position of strength. I decided I'd set a trap. Nothing violent, nothing explosive, just enough to shake her to her core. I wanted her to realize that I knew everything, that I wasn't some stupid fool walking around blind. I'd make her face her actions, and I'd do it in a way she couldn't deny. I made a plan. I'd leave her a note saying I knew about the hotel and the dinner, that I had the evidence. Then I'd wait for her to come home. The idea was simple: catch her in the act of lying again, or better yet, catch her trying to hide something else. I stayed up late that night, my mind racing. I bought a cheap hidden camera, nothing obvious, just a little device I could set in the living room corner. If she tried to lie her way out, I'd have her on record. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't just some guy who'd turn the other cheek. The next evening I left a note on our kitchen table. It read, "I know everything. The hotel, the dinner, the rides, don't bother denying it. I've got the proof. Come home and we'll talk." I felt nervous as hell, waiting for her to come through that door. My palms were sweaty, my stomach fluttering with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. When I heard her key turn in the lock, my heart pounded so loud I thought she'd hear it. She stepped inside, looking tense, her face pale. She saw the note and froze for a second, then slowly she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. I watched her eyes dart around the room, trying to find a way to lie her way out of it. "Jess," I said, voice steady but cold, "I know everything." Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth as if to speak, then closed it again. Her hands started to shake. "Dan, I don't know what you're talking about." I nodded toward the phone she was clutching. "Save it. I've got the receipts, the hotel key, the rideshare. You lied to me, again." She looked like she was about to cry, but I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of calm, like I was finally taking control after months of feeling helpless. I'd made her face it, made her own betrayal impossible to deny. She broke down then, tears streaming down her face. "It was a mistake. I didn't want you to find out like this. It just happened. I swear I never loved him. I thought I loved you." I stared at her, feeling the coldness settle in my chest. "You thought it was okay to cheat just because you were bored, or whatever excuse you're going to give now. That's not how this works. You can't just throw away years of trust because you got lonely." She looked at me, her voice trembling. "Please, Dan, give me a chance to—" I cut her off. "No, I've got enough. You want to lie and cheat, fine, but don't expect me to stick around for the fallout. I'm done." I reached for the keys to the apartment, feeling like I was finally awake from a nightmare. As I handed her the keys, I saw her crumple, her face a mask of regret and fear. I knew I had to leave, needed distance to think straight. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of watching me break down or beg her to stay. But I also knew I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. There's more to this story, something that's going to turn her world upside down. And I plan to make sure she feels it. Next part, the moment I handed her the keys, I felt a mix of relief and rage swirling inside me, like I'd finally taken control of a situation I had no idea how to handle just days ago. Jess stared at me with those wide, pleading eyes, her face blotched with tears, and I knew she was realizing just how deep I'd dug. That's when I decided I'd go all the way. No half measures, no backing down. I stayed silent long enough for her to speak again, but I already knew what she'd say. She'd beg, she'd cry, she'd promise things she didn't mean. I didn't want her to get that chance. Instead, I turned away, grabbed my coat, and left her standing there, crying and clutching the keys like she could stop me. I didn't plan this revenge in a day. I'd been stewing, gathering every piece of ammo I could find. That hotel receipt, the rideshare, the messages, those were just the start. I knew Jess was sneaky, probably had a backup plan or two, so I had to be smarter. Over the next 2 days, I devised a plan that would hit her where it hurt. I'd set a trap, but not just any trap. I wanted her to feel exposed, vulnerable, humiliated. I was going to turn her betrayal into a lesson she wouldn't forget. I started by installing a tiny, almost invisible camera in the living room corner where she'd often sit and lie on the couch. It was a simple device, but enough to catch her red-handed if she tried to sneak around again. I also contacted an old friend who was a private investigator. I needed more proof, something that would make her think twice. I paid him a good sum to look into her recent activities, her phone records, her bank accounts, anything that could confirm what I already suspected. She was hiding more than just one affair. While I waited for the evidence, I started to think about what I really wanted to do. I wasn't just after revenge to make her suffer. I wanted her to feel the sting of what she'd done, to see her realize the consequences of her betrayal. That's when the idea hit me. I'd write her a letter detailing everything I knew, every lie, every secret rendezvous, so she wouldn't mistake my silence for weakness. The day I set the trap, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. My palms were slick, my stomach a mess of knots. When she finally came home that evening, I was ready. I'd left the note, the camera was rolling, and I was sitting on the couch with my phone in hand, waiting for her to slip up. She entered quietly, avoiding eye contact. Her face was pallid, her hands trembling. I watched her hesitate for a moment, then move toward the kitchen. I kept silent, watching her every move, recording everything. After a few tense minutes, she pulled out her phone and started texting, probably someone she trusted, or maybe her lover. That's when she reached for the charger on the wall, and I saw her glance at the camera. Her eyes widened just a fraction, like she suddenly realized she'd been caught. Then she hesitated, her fingers hovering over the screen. She knew I was watching. I pushed play on my phone, and the camera captured her sitting on the couch, nervously fidgeting, then glancing at her phone and typing hurriedly. I knew she'd be trying to delete the evidence, but I'd already backed up everything. She looked tense, like she knew her secret was slipping away. I finally spoke, voice calm but icy. "Jess, I'm not stupid. I saw what you're doing. You think you can hide it from me, but I've got everything on tape." She spun around, her face a mask of panic. "Dan, I didn't mean for this to happen, I swear." "You swear? That's rich," I snapped. "You lied to me about where you were, who you were with, and now I see you trying to cover your tracks. Do you even realize what you've done? How much trust you've thrown away?" She broke down completely then, tears streaming down her cheeks. "It was just a mistake, I swear. I didn't want to hurt you. I love you. It's just I got carried away." I felt a strange disconnection, like I was watching from outside my own body. The betrayal cut so deep I could taste it. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't recognize, and I knew I had to act fast. "I've got enough," I told her, voice low. "You want to keep pretending everything's okay? Fine. But I'm done believing your lies. You're not just a cheater, you're a liar, a thief of my time and trust, and I'm going to make sure you regret that." She begged, pleaded, even tried to justify herself, but I didn't listen. Instead, I packed her things into a box, clothes, a few personal items, and handed her the keys to our apartment. "This is your last night here," I said evenly. "Tomorrow, I'm going to take the rest of your stuff and change the locks. You'll get nothing more from me." As she sank to her knees, sobbing, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anger. I'd finally taken control of the situation, and I wasn't going to let her worm her way back into my life. Not after this. I stepped out the door, shutting it behind me with a solid click. I could hear her crying through the walls, but I didn't look back. I had plans, and I knew this wasn't over. She'd think she'd gotten away with it, but she hadn't, and I was going to make sure she paid. Next part. The next morning, I woke up with a strange mix of exhaustion and clarity. The house was eerily silent. No footsteps, no sobs. Just the quiet hum of the city outside. I'd made my move, and for the first time in days, I felt like I was in control again. But I also knew that this was only the beginning. Jess wasn't just going to roll over and accept her fate quietly. I got up, my stomach clenched with anticipation. I had one last thing to do, something that would seal the deal, something that would make her truly understand that I wasn't messing around. I grabbed my phone, pulled up her social media profiles, and started digging around her activity from the night before. Sure enough, I found more evidence. Messages sent late at night, deleted photos, even a few sneaky goodbye texts to her lover. She was trying to cover her tracks even now. That made my blood boil. It was like she thought she could just erase her mistakes and walk away. I didn't want to just confront her again. No, I wanted her to feel the full weight of her actions. I decided I'd turn her own game against her. I spent the afternoon crafting a detailed letter, something that would hit her where it hurt. An honest, brutal account of her betrayal packed with all the evidence I'd collected so far. Once I finished, I printed it out, then took her phone, her laptop, and everything she might use to hide her lies. I set her device on the kitchen table along with the letter and left it there. I also took her social media passwords, changing them so she couldn't access anything. If she wanted to lie or spin stories, she'd have to do it without her digital camouflage. Around sunset, I knew it was showtime. I sat on my couch with a cold beer, watching the door, waiting for her to arrive. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I was done playing nice. Sure enough, she showed up just past 6 p.m., her eyes red, her face hollow. She hesitated at the door before finally stepping inside. When she saw the note and the printed letter on the table, her eyes widened in horror. "Dan," she whispered, voice trembling, "what is all this?" I leaned back, arms crossed. "That, Jess, is your confession. I laid out everything, proof of your trips, your lies, your betrayal. You can deny it all you want, but I've got the evidence." She looked at the papers, then at her phone, her mouth moving like she wanted to say something. Finally, she just sat down heavily on a chair, her hands trembling. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said softly. "I was stupid, I guess. I thought I could keep it secret. I never wanted to hurt you like this." "Too late," I said flatly. "You already did, and the worst part, you didn't even have the decency to own up to it. You just tried to hide it." She looked down, tears spilling over her cheeks again. "I loved you, Dan, I still do. I don't want to lose everything, please." I took a deep breath, feeling the storm inside me threaten to boil over. "Love? You think cheating on me is love? That lying and sneaking around is what love looks like? Sorry, Jess, I'm done with your excuses." I reached over and grabbed the keys I'd left on the table, sliding them across to her. "Here's your last chance. Take the rest of your things and don't come back." That's the end of it, her hands shook as she reached for the keys, and I saw her eyes flicker with desperation. She looked like she wanted to say something more, but I was already standing. I didn't want to hear her lies anymore. I just wanted her gone. I turned toward the door, my heart pounding, and without looking back, I left her there with the evidence she couldn't deny. The apartment was finally quiet, peaceful, even. But I knew better than to think that was the end. What she'd done had shattered everything between us, and now I had to decide how to move forward. But one thing was clear, she'd never get a second chance. She'd burned that bridge, and I intended to make sure she knew it. I walked out, closing the door behind me for good. I don't regret it, not one bit. If anything, what I learned is that sometimes you have to take things into your own hands to protect what's left of yourself. Because if you don't, someone else will take that power away from you, and that's a lesson I'll never forget. Next part. The silence in the apartment was almost deafening after I closed the door behind her. I stood there for a moment, just breathing, trying to process what I'd done. It felt like a weight had lifted, but at the same time I knew I'd crossed a line, one I wasn't sure I could come back from. Still, I told myself it was necessary. She'd betrayed me so completely, I couldn't just shrug it off and pretend everything was fine. I sat down on the sofa, staring at the empty space where her things used to be. My mind kept circling back to her face, those tears, the pleading, the hopelessness. I felt a flicker of guilt, but it was drowned out by a stronger wave of anger. I'd been played for a fool, and I was done being the one who took the blame. Over the next few days, I threw myself into sorting through the mess. I changed the locks, canceled joint accounts, and even hired someone to come and clear out her remaining things. I wanted her out of my life completely, without a single thread connecting us. Every step felt like peeling back layers of a betrayal I still couldn't quite believe. But what really hit me was how much her betrayal had shaken my sense of self. I'd always been the guy who trusted, who believed in honesty and fidelity. Now I felt like I'd been sucker punched, left questioning everything I thought I knew. The worst part, I still missed her every damn morning, every night. That ache of loss was a persistent echo I couldn't shake. One night I sat alone in the dark, replaying everything. The worst part was how easily she'd lied, how she'd hidden her secret life behind her smile. I kept asking myself, did I ever really know her? Or was she just pretending all along? The questions spun around my head like a tornado that wouldn't let up. And then I remembered the night of the Christmas party. The way she looked at that guy, her nervousness when she slipped away with him. That's when I realized I'd been blind, or maybe just too in love to see the signs. Either way, I felt stupid for trusting her so completely. But I realized something else. I'd be damned if I let her define me by her betrayal. I had to move forward, rebuild somehow. I knew I'd need time, maybe therapy, maybe just a lot of whiskey. But I also knew I had to reclaim my life. She'd taken enough from me already, so I made a decision. I'd stay away from her, cut all contact. I started focusing on myself, new plans, new goals, new routines. I even signed up for a weekend getaway just to clear my head. I knew that if I kept dwelling on what she did, I'd never move on. I had to cut the cord, even if it hurt like hell. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about next steps. The legal stuff, breaking the lease, dividing possessions, making sure she couldn't come back. I wanted to be solid, unshakable. No more letting her manipulate or deceive me. I'd survived the worst, and I was determined to come out the other side stronger. In the back of my mind, I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming my dignity, rebuilding my trust in myself. Because if I didn't, I'd just be another guy who got played and let it ruin him. I'm not proud of everything I did. There's guilt, there's anger. But I also know I did what I had to do. Sometimes the only way to heal is to tear everything down first. I just hope that someday I can forgive myself for what I've done and what I've lost. Because right now, all I want is to move past this. Next part. The last few weeks have been a blur of motions, packing, cleaning, dealing with legal stuff, and trying to piece my life back together. Honestly, I never thought I'd be the guy handing over keys, watching someone I cared about walk away for good. But I learned something in all this. Sometimes you have to rip everything apart just to rebuild. And yeah, it hurts like hell. The day I finally handed her the last of her things, I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I met her at the front door of my apartment, her face pale, eyes hollow. She looked tiny, like a shell of the woman I once knew. I handed her a small box with her remaining possessions, some jewelry, a few clothes, a book she'd loved. She took it silently, her hands trembling. "Goodbye, Jess," I said, voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "You made your choice. I hope you realize what you lost." She looked at me, tears welling again. "I never wanted this. I loved you. Love," I cut her off sharply, "is not cheating, not lying, not sneaking out the back door with some guy. Love is trust, Jess, and you threw that away." She looked like she wanted to say something more, but instead she just nodded and turned away. I watched her walk down the stairs, her shoulders hunched, clutching that box like it was all she had left. When she disappeared out of sight, I finally exhaled. The house was dead silent now, no more secrets, no more lies. I closed the door behind her and leaned against it, feeling every muscle in my body relax just a little. I'd done it, cut the cord, ended the nightmare, reclaimed what little dignity I had left. It was time to start rebuilding one step at a time. That evening I sat on my porch, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon. The air was cool, and for the first time in months I felt a flicker of peace. I knew I had a long road ahead, healing, trust, opening myself up again. But I also knew I'd never let someone betray me like that again. Not without consequences. Looking back, I realize how much I learned about myself. I learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes you're better off walking away rather than trying to fix a broken person. I learned that revenge, while tempting, is only a temporary fix. True strength is in knowing when to walk away for good. And most of all, I learned that I'm capable of standing up for myself, even when everything inside screams to just fold. I may have lost Jess, but I gained clarity. I gained the power to say enough is enough. And that in the end might be the best revenge of all. So here's my advice. If you're in a similar situation, don't wait. Take control. Cut out what's toxic, even if it hurts, because you deserve someone who values you, who respects you. And if they don't, walking away might be the hardest thing you ever do, but it's also the bravest. And maybe, just maybe, it's the only way to truly start over.